Tonight on Cronkite News, we are 2 weeks away from Election Day, what the campaign trail looks like, and which presidential nominee is visiting the Valley again.
Plus, the important role Gen Z plays in this upcoming presidential election and how the campaigns are trying to reach these young voters.
And Grand Canyon University skates to the top of the rankings after last season's roller hockey championship. We'll have more on how they hope to do it again. Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Brady Hansen.
And I'm Ann Perry. Thank you for joining us. There are just 14 days to go until the general election, and we've seen many visits from the presidential candidates in recent days.
And we've learned that former President Trump will make a stop in Tempe on Thursday, where he'll hold a rally at Mullet Arena on the campus of ASU. And Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, is campaigning in several spots across our state today. Senator Vance held a rally in Peoria this afternoon before speaking at the Pima County Fairgrounds in Tucson.
Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris is reaching out to Latino voters. She taped an interview today with the Spanish-language network Telemundo, while her surrogates hit Arizona. Tomorrow, former President Bill Clinton will be speaking at an event in Phoenix. President Biden will be in Levine on Friday. And this weekend, Minnesota Governor and Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz will also be making a stop in Arizona.
Well, one important issue on the ballot for voters this year is access to abortion. Prop 139 would enshrine access to abortion in the Arizona Constitution.
Aiden Hansen joins us now to break it down.
One proposition getting a lot of attention this year in Arizona could decide access to abortion in the state. Prop 139 is the Right to Abortion Initiative. This prop would ensure the right to an abortion in the Arizona Constitution. Under the current law, abortions in Arizona are banned after 15 weeks of pregnancy without exemptions for rape or incest. If passed, this prop would allow abortions up until fetal viability, as it was under Roe v. Wade. Supporters of Prop 139 say that the law gives women the freedom to make their own healthcare decisions. Those against it say that the prop goes too far and will cause health risks for pregnant women. One interesting fact is that Proposition 139 is a citizens' initiative. The Secretary of State's office validated over 570,000 signatures for the proposition to appear on the ballot, the most ever in state history.
And if you plan to vote by mail, time is running out. You have exactly 1 week to get your ballot in the mailbox. The last day to do so is October 29th, which is next Tuesday. And if you ever wondered what happens to your ballot after you drop it off, the Maricopa County Recorder's Office has released a video explaining the entire process, from pickup to your vote being counted. You can see it on the County Recorder's YouTube page. This year, nearly 2 million ballots were sent out to early voters.
More than 41 million Gen Z voters will be casting their ballot this year, and 8 million will be voting for the first time. With the polls showing a tight race, many are wondering just how influential this younger bloc of voters will be. Reporter Dedson Cortez visits one organization that is teaching them about the upcoming election.
The sounds are familiar. A noisy classroom and teens finding humor in their jokes. But these students aren't learning your everyday pre-calculus. They're the next generation of voters, learning to navigate the election process from pre-registering and even casting their ballot.
I watched the presidential debate live.
Emmanuel Anand Jr. is a facilitator here at YVote, a nonprofit organization dedicated to teaching young individuals about the election process.
I really find it satisfying to be able to teach people civics and just thinking about the political sphere that we're in today. You know, instead of sitting around, we do have power, we have the means and ways to address the things that we want to see change.
Microphones in hand, each student sharing their perspective, learning through their PowerPoints and group discussion. At 18 years old, Emmanuel's a part of the 40.8 million Gen Z voters who will be casting their ballot in this year's election.
To put into perspective how large of an amount that is, that's approximately the total population size of 5 critical swing states in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona.
Historically, we've always seen politicians not cater to younger people and actually cater it to older people. It's really interesting to see the shift in that politicians are aiming for on all sides of the spectrum.
I mean, we look at states like Michigan, yes, but more so states like Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania that were decided upon in 2020 based on tens of thousands of votes. Even the smallest degree of apathy among young voters could definitely be consequential in some of these key swing states.
Dr. Matt Nelson is an assistant professor of political science at the University of Miami, specializing in youth civic engagement. He says the digital space has become an influential battleground in this election, as young voters increasingly turn to social media to stay informed.
Only 32% saying that they're getting information from national or cable television news. Now we go to social media, 69% of 18 to 40-year-olds in our sample are saying that they're getting their information.
So then going back to Gen Z is we are an extremely connected generation. But what we do know is there's a mass culture, right, that changes very quickly now.
Both presidential candidates are campaigning on social media in an all-out effort to sway young voters. But does the social media impact media literacy and the ability to detect misinformation? Why Vote works with students on identifying takeaways from credible news sources as they all annotate articles.
Looking at civics, seeing like different case studies, and seeing how we can be the change that we want to see.
What are some things that you're looking for in our next president of the United States?
I hope that the next president is very open, transparent about the plans and policies that they plan to implement, because it's one thing to like say all these different things for your political campaigns, but now that you're in office, what are the first things that you're going to do, and like the steps that we're going to take to get there.
In New York, Denson Cortez, Cronkite News.
Early voting is already underway in Arizona as the November 5th general election draws closer and closer.
An Arizona election official has pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor for failing to certify the 2022 midterm election results.
Cochise County Supervisor Peggy Judd originally faced a felony but took a plea instead. As part of her plea deal, she will serve 90 days of probation and pay a $500 fine. Another Republican supervisor, Tom Crosby, was also charged for his involvement in the delay to the certification. He's set for trial in January and is currently running for re-election. Coming up next, a look at the news headlines from around the country, including the arrest today of a former CEO of a very popular clothing brand.
We'll hear from an official on just what the CEO is accused of when we return, plus a look at the other national stories making headlines tonight.
And I'm Mark Radici-Moras. We have a big warm-up headed our way. I'll have your full forecast when we return.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut.
How students can build their broadcast journalism portfolio with opportunities to learn more about on-air reporting and studio production.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at @thecut_network and on X at @CutASU.
3, 2, 1. Cronkite News. Get real professional experience in areas such as reporting, broadcast editing, and behind-the-scenes production, such as technical director and audio.
Kill the mics.
Or go out in the field and cover important local stories.
Learn and master the English language
in a fun, welcoming atmosphere. Cronkite News. The future starts now.
Taking a look at news from around the nation, the former CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch has been arrested.
That's right, Mike Jeffries has been booked on charges related to sex trafficking. According to a federal indictment, Jeffries and 2 of his associates are accused of running a trafficking ring between 2008 and 2015. Investigators say the recruited men who wanted to be models were then supplied with alcohol and drugs. The U.S. District Attorney for the Eastern District of New York talked about the allegations earlier today.
To anyone who thinks they can exploit and coerce others by using the so-called casting couch system, this case should serve as a warning. Prepare to trade that couch for a bed in federal prison.
Attorneys for Jeffries and his partner, who was also arrested, has previously denied any wrongdoing to the BBC. And an attorney for Jeffries told CNN they will respond to the allegations in court and not the media.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for several hours today. The pair met during Secretary Blinken's visit to Israel. The secretary reportedly pressed the Prime Minister to pursue a truce in its wars with both Gaza and Lebanon. This is the 11th visit by Secretary Blinken since the beginning of the conflict with Gaza in October of last year.
And the famous Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina is set to reopen after being closed for more than a month because of Hurricane Helene. The actual house, built in 1895, was not damaged by the hurricane, but grounds on the estate were actually flooded by last month's hurricane and needed to be repaired. The Biltmore will be open once again starting November 2nd.
Back here in Arizona, we've had a few days of chilly weather, but it didn't last long.
That's right. Temperatures are soaring once again across the valley. Marco DJ Morash joins us now to let us know just how hot it's going to be.
Yeah, guys, that heat is definitely going to be present heading into the weekend. But taking a look at the evening planner tonight, it's going to be 86 degrees at 7 p.m. But looking at 10 p.m., it's going to get down to 77, so very mild. Looking at the lows, 66 in Phoenix, it's the hottest part of the state. The Colorado River City is not far behind, 65 in Lake Havasu, 62 in Bullhead City. But take a look up north, 37 degrees in Flagstaff and a below freezing 31 degrees in the Grand Canyon. Looking at the highs, 98 in Phoenix. In fact, that whole southwest part of the state is hottest as usual, 96 degrees in Lake Havasu. Heading up north, 96 degrees in Bullhead City. But looking at the north part of the state again, 73 degrees in Flagstaff and 74 in the Grand Canyon. Now, you may be wondering, why are those heat temperatures still present? We've got a high influx of pressure moving into the state, but it's going to move east into the rest of the nation heading into the weekend. Speaking of heading into the weekend, we are still in the high 90s, 97 degrees on Friday, hottest on Saturday at 98 degrees. But look at that heading into next week, 76 degrees on Tuesday and Wednesday. So those fall temperatures are definitely on their way, but hang in there until then. Back to you guys at the desk.
Coming up next, Kenny Dillingham called out his team's kicking after a loss to Cincinnati.
After their poor performance, ASU will look to make serious improvements in practice. Luckily for the football team, they have a bye this week, which will give them more time to practice before facing the OSU Cowboys. More after the break.
Two, one.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut. Coming up on the cut.
How students can build their broadcast journalism portfolio with opportunities to learn more about on-air reporting and studio production.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at @thecut_network and on X @CutASU.
3, 2, 1. Cronkite News. Get real professional experience in areas such as reporting, broadcast editing, and behind-the-scenes production, such as technical director and audio.
Kill the mics.
Or go out in the field and cover important local stories.
We learn and master the English language.
In a fun, welcoming atmosphere. Cronkite News. The future starts now.
Congratulations.
Hello and welcome to the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm your host, Nash Dara. The Cardinals reined in the Chargers on Monday Night Football in a low-scoring affair. Arizona was able to come away with a win, 17-15. The passing attack was not entirely there for the Cardinals last night, but their run game more than made up for it. James Conner put together a great night, rushing for 101 yards. Kyler Murray also contributed with his legs, rushing for 64 yards and a touchdown. In clutch fashion, kicker Chad Ryland came through with a 32-yard field goal that gave the Cards the edge in their thriller against the Chargers. Huge news in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa is medically cleared from his third career concussion to return to practice. The Miami Dolphins quarterback sounded off on how he aims to approach the game moving forward.
It's got to be smart. That's it. It's got to be smart. My entire time playing football, I've been a competitor, and that, is or was sort of my edge when I would run from high school. Even in college, I would do the same thing. But it's a professional, setting. This is the professional level, the best of the best. You just can't be doing that. So definitely got to stay more available for the team, for the organization, for our guys.
If all goes well this week at practice, we may see Tua back on the field as early as this Sunday against the Cardinals. Now to Arizona soccer. Rising's final regular season home game ended in defeat. However, despite the loss, the Rising have secured a spot in the USL playoffs. Cronkite sports reporter Marco Radice Moras has more on the details.
Phoenix Rising took the field for their final regular season home game versus Memphis full of optimism, aware that their playoff fate was in their own hands. In a largely uneventful first half, it was the visitors who took the lead just before half-time, silencing the home crowd. Rising generated few promising chances and couldn't find the back of the net as the full-time whistle blew, resulting in their defeat. But thanks to some other results from around the league, the Rising ultimately clinched a playoff spot. Despite the postseason berth, Phoenix Rising interim head coach Diego Gomez was disappointed with his team's performance.
We are happy to make it to playoff, that for sure. I think we were very good on the road last week, but we also wanted to win today and to put a good performance in front of the fans. So we are not content with the result today.
While some fans had hoped for a victory, many expressed relief at securing a playoff spot, especially considering that just a few weeks ago, missing out seemed like a real possibility.
I wish we would have won, or at least matched them in what we could have done. But hey, we've made it into the playoffs off the tiebreakers, so I'll take it.
Rising are playoff bound. Despite losing 1-0 versus Memphis tonight, Phoenix punched their postseason ticket in front of over 7,000 fans. It's certain to say the championship defense is on. Here at Phoenix Rising Stadium, I'm Mark Radice Moras for Cronkite News.
The Phoenix Rising traveled to Kentucky this Saturday to take on Eastern Conference leaders Louisville City FC in the final regular season game of the year. The Rising are hoping to pick up a victory to secure a better seed for the playoffs. Having their fair share of missed opportunities this season, one thing that remains consistent is the Sun Devils' dominant rushing attack. But ASU is not the only team in the conference giving opponents headaches on the ground. Compared to years past, this year Big 12 games are won in the trenches. And ASU football quickly familiarized themselves with the big physical running backs in the conference stacked with talent in the backfield. The Big 12 features 5 teams ranked in the top 50 in the nation for rushing offense, as well as 5 teams ranked in the top 50 in time of possession.
This league runs the ball. It's funny because 10 years ago, this league threw the ball. And that's everything people talked about. Now this league runs the ball. They run it effectively. These running back rooms are loaded. And it's by design, and they're all bigger backs. They're backs that run through you that are harder to tackle.
Have one of those running backs Dillingham described with their very own Cam Scattaboo, who is currently 7th in the nation in rushing yards. They will enjoy a bye week this week before heading to Stillwater to face Oklahoma State November 2nd. Now onto a lesser-known but very exciting collegiate sport. A year removed from winning the national championship, GCU's roller hockey team has added to their arsenal through addition by subtraction. Brady Hansen has more on how one program's loss became GCU's gain.
Bring home its first championship in program history. The success has brought a lot of buzz to the roller hockey community and has even helped double the size of the team this year.
it just gave us momentum. Like we had, I think 10 or 11 guys on the roster last year. Now we have over 24 with, I think, 14 of them being freshmen. It's massive for the program. We're just growing every year. We have kids that want to come next year that we don't even know if we can fit. We have so many kids.
While these players are entering a thriving program, some of these players had to overcome a dying program. Last season, GCU defeated Bethel University in the semifinals, which would turn out to be Bethel's last game as a program. Out of nowhere, Bethel decided to cut their roller hockey program this summer, leaving many players scrambling to find a new place to play.
They're like, hey, have you heard the news? And I was like, what news? And they said, the hockey team's going down for the season. And I said, good joke, funny joke. And they're like, no, I'm serious. Go look at your portal. As soon as I looked, I gave them a call right away. I said, hey, what's happened?
When put in a tough situation, many people turn to their friends, and that is exactly what these transfer players like Havana Lee did. Lee turned to GCU goaltender Ryan Meltzer, who had played at Bethel in his first 2 years prior to joining GCU for their championship run last year. Due to this connection of Meltzer, Lee was able to find a new home at GCU.
I mean, the day we found out the news that Bethel was no longer a program, I was already on the phone with Zach, Biggs, and Meltz. So from there, I got in contact with Aiden and Meltz, and they made the transition process really easy.
After surviving the downfall of their previous program, these players will look toward the future to help GCU capitalize on the recent success that they have built. In Peoria, Brady Hansen, Cronkite News.
While the loss of the Bethel roller hockey program is sad for the sport, it could be an opportunity to strengthen the road to a second straight championship for the Lopes. Opening day of roller hockey is November 2nd. That's it for the Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Nash Dara. Back to Brady and Ann at the desk.
Coming up next, a special bear is on the move.
Paddington Bear has a big journey ahead of him. The beloved Paddington is making plays in different area codes. Find out more when we come back.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut. Coming up on the cut.
How students can build their broadcast journalism portfolio with opportunities to learn more about on-air reporting and studio production.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at @thecut_network and on X at @CutASU.
3, 2, 1. Cronkite News. Get real professional experience in areas such as reporting, broadcast editing, and behind-the-scenes production, such as technical director and audio.
Kill the mics.
Or go out in the field and cover important local stories.
To be able to learn and master the English language.
In a fun, welcoming atmosphere. Cronkite News. The future starts now.
Welcome back. A shot of Old Main on the campus of ASU in Tempe. Sure looks nice outside, but it's going to be pretty warm this week, with temperatures nearing 100 degrees and all week long. It'll finally cool down by the end of the week, as we'll have mid-70s by next Tuesday. Paddington Bear has received an official passport from British authorities.
And what was originally an attempt at receiving a replica for a new film turned to Paddington being given the real deal. As part of the promotional campaign for the new film Paddington in Peru, a co-producer told Radio Times magazine that a request for a passport replica was filed, and British authorities came through for our bear and surprised him with an official passport. Paddington, who has lived in Britain for decades, will be traveling to Peru for his third installment of the series. Coming soon to a theater near you.
That's it for tonight's edition of Cronkite News. I'm Brady Hansen.
And I'm Ann Perry. Thank you for joining us. And to see top Arizona stories anytime, log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.